Peace, YouTube. It's Tools Day. Now, rather than watching just a Tool video or a Tool song today, I figured I would try something just a little different. I'm going to watch a video that I have seen only like once, and it's been a while, but I figured if there's a video that I could share some insights and possibly a story or two about Tool, then I figured let's do it. So, with no more ado, let's get into it. And yes, I am going to be watching this mostly for my friends and family, but hopefully a few of you out there will probably get something from it too. So let's just do it. The Humbling River by Puscifer. That is such a very underrated song. I swear, how he can get just like 5 or 6 notes to sound so great is beyond me, but he always does it.
Nature, nurture, heaven and home. Some of all and by them driven.
Jerome, Arizona. I have been there. As a matter of fact, I can still remember traveling to California to meet up with my first wife, and I stopped in Jerome because he had that winery out there. And yes, Maynard, if you happen to see this, I am the guy who was big on Shiraz when I was there and met you in person. I'm sure you probably don't remember it though, but the Tempranillo grapes, they looked great. Anyway, let's get back to it.
But I've never crossed the river.
What I'm doing out here in Arizona, there's this word sustainable that we throw around that I feel is applicable, not just in terms of a small local economy or a larger global economy, all those things. I think that also applies to just an artist in their creative flow. You see a lot of guys who are successful earlier on, and they start to not be successful, and they get a little desperate, desperate to be relevant in a world that no longer understands them.
Angel, angel, what have I done? I face the quakes, the wind, the fire.
We have a lot of disconnect. We have plenty of food, plenty of clothing, plenty of shelter at this point. Now we're just kind of rats eating each other and eating ourselves.
Yep.
We've lost touch with that friction, that friction that keeps you moving, keeps you on your toes, keeps you growing, keeps you learning, keeps you surviving. We've kind of lost touch with that in a way. So we've lost touch with that kind of creative side, I think. Our utilitarian side.
I face the quakes, the wind, the fire.
Monroe.
This is an attempt to kind of rekindle some of that, to understand.
Sorry, Monroe is my
How
dog.
vulnerable we actually are, how much we are not in charge, and keep that art alive, keep those stories alive. I have much more to say now in music, in words, with this endeavor.
Wow. And also, a blue belt in jiu-jitsu is not easy to get by any stretch of the imagination, because I remember getting a blue belt in karate, and that seemed like it took for damn near ever. And I'm sure that a blue belt in jiu-jitsu takes longer, so wow, I commend him for that.
Yeah, I do what I do because I enjoy it. I enjoy farming, I enjoy winemaking, I enjoy writing music, I enjoy performing songs, writing songs, just in general, doing. And I'm always going to be doing. Whether I'm relevant or not, I think is irrelevant. Because I'm going to do what I'm going to do regardless of whether somebody knows about it or not. That's just in my nature. So you can see I'm in the studio. I'm always writing. I'm working with Tool, Perfect Circle, Puscifer all the time. Just slowly hedging our way through it all to present. If I was just doing those things, you start to run out of actual life experiences. All you're going to write about is the bus or a fucked up lawsuit, or you just kind of lose your way, become disconnected. This is the reconnect. As a legacy, I feel like some of the music we've done will live on its own. But I feel like using Bowie as an example, Bowie passes away, people line up to freak out that he's gone, and they're reverent about what he's done, and it's, in a way, that's done. Like, he's done it, he can't do it anymore, he's no longer here. So there's a reverence to him and a worship of sorts, a fan reaction to what he's done, and now he no longer is here. But that's kind of one direction. What we've done, or what we're setting up as a community here in northern Arizona, southern Arizona, with the winemaking and just the culinary efforts and the community efforts that go along with it, and all the collateral benefits of a winemaking and grape growing community. There might be some founders of that movement, but if we are no longer here, there are other people that continue what we've started. So in a way, that's more of a legacy, because you've actually established something that can continue 100, 200 years beyond you, which sets up that artistic process, winemaking, food growing, all the industries that surround that, all the activities that surround it, and of course the art of celebrating those.
That's weird that he brings up David Bowie there. Well, it's not weird, it's just notable, because I very, very, very much enjoy his contribution, I guess you could say, to Bring Me the Disco King. I very, very, very much like his version of that song by David Bowie. Well, Bowie sings the majority of it, but he played a special part in the remix of it, or something like that. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Struggles, because we're, as a winemaker, you need grapes, so you're slave to the sun and the rain. You are slave to Mother Nature, to understand her processes and what she wants, and she does not care what you want, so you're having to work around that. So that celebration around the fire at the end of a long hunt, or a long agricultural endeavor, that art, that's what it tells the story of what struggles you've gone through. It's the celebration of life, along with the struggle of actually trying to survive. If you really kind of look at it, your legacy, if executed properly in the nuances that I identify with it, it's not so much about you, it's about laying groundwork and honoring your past and honoring your family, and going forward for your children and their children. You're setting up a foundation for them where they still have to struggle. Just laying it out for them and just handing them a big bank account that's not gonna help them. They have to struggle in some way. They have to earn this thing. And this, I feel like vineyards and winery and the music is something that requires some struggle. You have to find your way in it. You can't just be handed it. The Verde Valley in general, it's not for everybody. This area of Arizona, it's one of those things you have to resonate with this area to really dig in and be here. It'll spit you out like a bad liver transplant.
Yep. Yes, it will too. Okay, we're about to continue on. Yep. Part 2. There's 3 parts to this.
Turns out Larry and Curly are female, so we get eggs from them all the time. But
Larry ended up dropping a litter. She sat on for quite a while, and we ended up with 11 more. But in the meantime, we ended up with the Denzel Washington, Vin Diesel, Don King, and what was Dana DeVito, but it turns out it's Danny DeVita. The trick now is not to name the other 11 so we can have it for dinner. Those are our duck eggs. Yeah, those are our ducks. So it's Saturday, 22nd. Waiting on Chris Turner and the crew to pick the Chardonnay from the Elefante block. It's the second set of fruit that's come in from harvest. We're already harvested the Lulienga, or the Lignan Blanc, from the Augustina block, and now we're getting the Chardonnay from the Elefante block. What I've done is I've just kind of gotten out of my own way. Was steaming and sulfur wicking the barrels and stacking those away so I can get them out of the way and get ready for the reds to come later in harvest. And I've just prepped the press. Everything's ready to go. We're just waiting on the fruit, so should be here half hour. This is the nice downtime during harvest. Like, everything's ready to go, calm before the storm. Just kind of chill and enjoy your space, enjoy the view. You're kind of slave to the sun and the rain. Mother Nature's in charge at this point. I'm gonna basically dump the whole clusters in the hopper. Hopper goes in. They go into this. This is what we call a bladder press. So when it's all in and shut down, you'll see there's little holes like a colander, and the bladder itself inflates like a big balloon, and it pushes the fruit up against that colander side, and the juice goes into the tray. I let it settle a little bit in here before I pump it out, but then we get it back into a tank, back in there, and let it settle for about 3 days. I'll rack it off, because some of that sediment will settle at the bottom of the tank. So after about 3 days, rack it off that sediment, put it into a tank, and inoculate it. I'm not real comfortable yet with...
I've just got to tell you all a quick story about how I met Maynard the first time. I actually showed up in Merkin Vineyards in Jerome, Arizona a while back, and I swear I introduced myself as a sommelier, or a sommelier in training or something like that, which, if you don't know what a sommelier is, if you've ever been to a very nice restaurant and they have to pair a wine with what you're eating, they typically bring in the sommelier to basically tell you that you should have this wine or that wine. And that's how I met him the first time. So I had been doing quite a bit of research on wine or whatever before that. So I won't say I was at a sommelier point, but I was damn near it. Anyway, let's just get going more, because this will be a long video.
Natural ferment. I don't have those kind of skills yet. I'm working on it, but so I'm going to inoculate with a cold resistant yeast, and that'll ferment for about 30 days.
We raise a heavy glass to you.
Because I certainly wasn't going to come up to Maynard and be like, yeah, I'm your #1 fan and blah, blah, blah. I love Tool. I love A Perfect Circle. I had already met him very briefly before my second time meeting him at Tower Records in Atlanta. And he's not a very approachable guy, so I could tell that he was around his fans at that point. So he just did not give off the come tell me your life story kind of vibe. So that's why I said that I was a sommelier, or a sommelier in training, because I knew that would be the way to get his ear. So anyway, let's go.
I always liked puzzles growing up. So I like when I'm writing and there are some pieces that are not completely connected intentionally. You're meant to look at those things and insert your own experiences in there. If I'm accurate with
the broad strokes and the sacred geometry of it, you will have some experience that applies to this story. But I don't lay it all out. It's not all just ABC, therefore D.
Nope.
It's going to be all over the map. It's
Yeah.
going to require you to be engaged in some way. And we're doing the same thing with the wine, doing the same thing with the food, giving you a little bit of a guide. We're not going to beat you over the head with it. If you don't want to get it, you don't have to. You can just have some wine and some food and move along. The songs, you can just tap your feet, jump up and down, whatever you want to do. That's up to you. No matter what the project, Puscifer, Perfect Circle, Tool, we're trying to give you something that's more than the sum of its parts. There's something else there. And depending on where you are in your life, you may hear it or may not.
The way I'm farming, I'm just a little more paranoid, and I'm obsessed with needing to know before we make the move, so I like to have the vines very structured as much as possible. We're setting 1 cluster per shoot and roughly between 6 and 12 clusters per vine, so that way everything in the site is ripening evenly. So if we grab clusters from all over the site and do a sample, it should give us a very accurate look at what we can expect if we were to pick that day. This is what it would be. So that's what we kind of base all of our picks on, is cluster samples. Speaking from an artist perspective, there's various kinds of canvas, but canvas is canvas. Paints are kind of paints. If that guy's a painter and that guy's a painter, I'll just get one of the paintings, right? They're just going to be the same because it's just paint and canvas and a guy painting. Well, that's not the case, obviously. Wine kind of takes that to another level because it's expressing a place. So every single place is going to express a particular variety differently. So if you have Cabernet Sauvignon on this site, as opposed to Napa, Texas, or New Mexico, or Washington State, Oregon, they're all going to be different expressions of that grape because there's an infinite number of variables. This is a huge copper mine. There's volcanic activity here. It used to be the bottom of an ocean, so there's ancient limestone, caliche layers, decomposed granite, river sediment from all the creeks and rivers. You're near the Grand Canyon. We're high elevation, so that diurnal swing night to day is going to be different than it would be in Napa. So all these variables go into making that grape a unique thing on that site, and then that lifetime of trying to figure out what grapes do best in that region. And since we have no actual history or notes from here, we won't know the answer to that question for another 50 years.
Yeah, the streets rose into perfect waves in the night.
Damn, I really very, very much wish I had been able to see Puscifer in California when they had Mia Jovovich perform this song with them. That would have been killer, but damn.
Nope. Crashes on my left and one on my right. It's all fire.
Caduceus Cellars is my wine tasting room, and it's meant to express this place as well as connecting you back through history with my family and the future of my family. My heart and soul is Caduceus Cellars for the winemaking and for the grape growing. I look at what my goals are for a restaurant, for a tasting room, and when I find somebody who has a similar goal or is dug in and who loves this place, that's everything. Brian and Alan run the Caduceus Cellars tasting room. They're in it for the long haul here. They're artists. They have mules, and they understand wine. They're artists across the board, and they're practical, right? So that you have everything with those guys. That I could not do Caduceus Cellars tasting room without these guys.
Brian Sullivan, manager here at the tasting room for 5 years, resident of Jerome for 25 years. Very interesting place here. Mostly concentrate as much as I can on sourcing locally, but sometimes I have to reach out a little bit further because the products are just too beautiful. Once you get down to the Merkin Vineyards tasting room in Osteria, you'll find that all of their pastas are made out of Hayden products. They're locally grown, locally milled. You can't get any more local than that.
Because I'm a storyteller, there's an implication that I'm a guide. So when you go into the tasting room, for example, and you want a Coca-Cola, you're not going to get one, because that interferes with your appreciation of the wine unless you've got some fantastic palate. You can see through all that sugar to see what's going on with the wines because you're, a master somm. Okay, I get that, but Most people are not walking through the door. So I'm going to guide you. But hopefully, if we guide you properly and without judgment, we can kind of give you an experience.
And yeah, I am sharing this. I know that it's called The Art of Work and everything, and I am all for hard work, but this guy, he just puts it to another level, because who is the Coppola? That's the one who puts out Coppola wine and stuff. He's probably had, maybe I would say, an eighth of the time that Maynard has put into his whole vineyards and everything, if even that. Because Maynard, he's very hands-on with all this. So that's a fitting title for these videos.
Just this Arizona sun is so fucking... It's just intense.
Oh, that's great.
So imagine that now translating into the grapes. How just that intensity. You live in the world with a lot of other people. And so that communication, that commerce is important. There's many things you can't do on your own. You have to kind of work with people. As an artist, you're responding to stimulus and you're observing, interpreting, and reporting. You have to do it for yourself, but you have to understand that there's a community around you. And that community around you, if they're inspired by your actions, and they can build on that. Whether it's writing songs or farming or cooking, all those things. You're setting up a legacy in that way. Merkin Vineyard, Osteria is meant to be that place where you gather and have food, and that experience of sitting down across from somebody to have that intimate experience with, and the connection between the wine and the food. The same kind of connection or similar connection if you were to take a trip to Italy or Spain and actually have that vacation where you're walking more, drinking water more, drinking wine, seeing friends, being outside, just that reaction, that community.
What a lot of people don't know is that one of the most important components that the Italians really like, the mills in Italy, are the Arizona winter wheat, the hard wheat that comes in. A huge important component to that Italian flour is Arizona wheat. So that's what we're using in the Merkin Osteria breads and pastas, is 100% Arizona wheat. Rather than making Metallica or Slayer wines, we're making Pink Floyd wines. You're not going to get them in 15 seconds. It's going to take a whole experience with friends, with food, time, investment, focus, presence, all those things.
Sweet baby Jesus on fire, I need a damn lawyer and a miracle to pull my ass out of this.
Chris Smith, executive chef here at Merkin Vineyard Tasting Room in Osteria. I met Maynard about 10 years ago while I was a chef at the Asylum restaurant. And we've just been going ever since then, you know. I always ask him, you know, why me? And he always tells me because he likes me.
Having Chris Smith as that artist and chef who is from here, wants to be here, and wants to express this place, that's important. I think I could probably just throw some money at some chef from out of town and bring him in and have him do stuff, but that wouldn't be the same thing. Christopher stores, that almost like that general store vibe. You've got the vinyl, you've got the barber shop, you've got all the tchotchkes and music. That's
It's
just
a very
kind of
cool
meant to be
place
that
to go
fun
to.
spot, little irreverent spot. It's a small town. this population under 500 in Jerome. We're kind of setting up the sewing
No
shop.
longer, though.
It's where you go to gossip and talk about stuff and connect
That's
with
a
each
good
other.
book.
No politics or religion, but everything else is open game. .48 Wineworks is meant to present young, talented winemakers trying to get their stars. We can build an army of people who have different expressions for the different grapes around the state. This is an old bank. There was an old historic bank robbery here where there's a pocket watch on display over here. You can see where the bullet was stopped by the pocket watch and the guy lived. So a lot of the artwork you see on the walls here, the photos, this is done by Misaki, a fantastic artist friend of ours. She kind of took some old photos and manipulated them to make it look like .48 Wineworks has been around as long as the moon. So here we have Abraham Lincoln having a glass of .48 red. Yeah, this gentleman here is doing some laundry, and as he's rearranging, he realized that he uncovered an old wall that had the original .48 Wineworks logo on it. That's where it came from in post-Civil War. I'm gonna stop talking now. Oh yeah, this gentleman here, these guys just got done shooting some other human beings, and they're gonna enjoy a glass of wine after. Verde Valley Wine Festival is held right over in this park next to us, featuring spirits, wine, beer, food, local crafts. David Baird runs that. He's part of the Oddity Wine Collective, and that's every year on Mother's Day weekend. So what we've done here with the Pulsifer store, with the new and used vinyl, the barber for the barber shop, all the stuff we do, the screen printing on the shirts there, with the osteria, with all the handmade pastas and all the breads. We've set up a scenario where people have come in, they're just looking for a job. But hopefully by the time they leave, they've made a connection with the Arizona wheat, the Arizona grapes, the Arizona produce, the interaction and the conversation with the barber. There's commerce and communication happening that spirals out from there, and hopefully we can build on that.
Yep, and I believe that that's it. Okay, so
Brazilian
I was
Jiu-Jitsu is probably the
incorrect.
hardest thing I've ever
There's
done.
at least
A
four
long journey.
parts
As soon
to
as you
this.
think you've gotten to a plateau, there's another plateau above that. It's very humiliating. You have to proceed in that manner, understanding that there's always somebody better, more technical, faster, stronger, all that. It's a wonderful journey. I highly recommend it. This is Verde Valley Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor Stefan Dahlstedt and Jesse Teague, and my buddy Tim White.
The most important part is just this, breaking the script first. Boom. Here. There. And then I'm going to climb up. This gives me the leverage to face you and bring my knees up.
Okay.
Alright?
Yeah.
That's an awful position.
Yeah.
Because I got everything here.
Right.
Oxygen in the brain is important for creativity and productivity and just being aware and in your skin. Being in the wine industry or being on the mat, you have to be conscious and present for that to be a successful endeavor. You can't phone it in. You can't really cut corners for it to be, for the wine, the vineyard suffers if you're not present. Right? Same thing on the mat. If you're snoozing, there's somebody that's going to put you to sleep. Verde Valley Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're walking in the door as a white belt, you don't know anything. So every day that you go there, even though you might make some small progressions, it's about you really digging in and self-evaluating and understanding exactly what humility smells like. Because it's a tough road from white belt to black belt. It's a long road and it requires you. Nobody else can do that but you. You have to put the time in. You have to progress. You have to do it. No one can do it for you. If you have that belt, by the time you get to a black belt, you've earned it. There's no shortcuts. My father was my wrestling coach in high school. Solid coach, taught me a lot. My father expects a lot.
That's
when it
one
came to
thing
coaching.
right there that I really very, very, very much wish that I had done was wrestling in high school. Because as I've gotten older, I have come to learn that any time that you get in a fight or something, it always, just about almost always, winds up on the ground. So that's why I see so much value in learning wrestling and stuff on the mat rather than striking or whatever. But anyway, sorry about that.
Because he knew that you had more in you than you were giving as a high school student. That's just the nature of high school students, right? But his take was always, you either win or you learn. So you go on that mat, you're on your own, and maybe you won. But if you didn't win, what did you learn?
Down a little bit, just down, just to kind of get with the beat. Just go like this. Okay. Yeah. V. Goes down, Okay. Sorry. We'll come down. Yeah. And then just turn your wrists out. Good. Yeah. And a career.
Because if you didn't learn anything, then you lost. So you either win or you learn on that mat. I discovered jiu-jitsu through Tim Alexander, drummer for Primus. He showed me the tapes of the early UFCs, and I found a gym near me, Hicks and Gracie's gym down on Pico, mid to late 90s is when I found that place. And I dug in, and I just wanted to learn, having grown up a wrestler with my dad, and that was a skill set that I had a foundation in. So I felt like this is something that I can learn. Of course, we walk in the door as a wrestler, and a lot of that stuff is absolutely not applicable. So you're completely like, oh, I got this, and they're like, how long was I out?
Cross. Right there. No, you're gripping too far over. Get a little more open here. You come down. That's already there. Yeah. That's right there. Because what you've done is you come here, and all you got to do is point your thumb, turn your wrist that way. Yep, and you're going to get no. Yep. So, yeah, that's it. It's just this. I need to practice that a lot. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah. And you'll see when you hit it right on these guys. Yeah. And if you go slow, if you go fast, they're panicking, they're trying to get out. If you're like, oh, and you're looking at something, and you're doing this, they're like, and then you draw dicks on their forehead. Yeah.
When you look at something like the USC, you have to understand that the people that are operating in that circle, they are extremely gifted, world-class athletes. Anybody that's, a top-level boxer, top-level MMA guy, their body in some way is, far above and beyond your average person who does martial arts.
You don't know your yeah, whatever. You have you comb your hair. Comb your hair. And I hit it.
I don't I'm not living any illusions. I will never be in the octagon. I'm not built for it. Nope. What I do martial arts for is multiple things. Just personal growth and personal understanding and reflection. But also because it's a self-defense technique. The idea of any self-defense martial art is that maybe it'll never happen, but if you're in a situation where you end up having some drunken blithering idiot or somebody's crazy, so I do it for that.
There's the hip
purpose.
Toss,
but
where he's singing "Push It" on the guy's back
on the mat in the gi is very mentally stimulating. It's step by step. If you watch some of the top level black belt guys competing, it's half inches. They're making adjustments that are half inches, and you're watching them try to out chess each other like 6 moves ahead to shut off where the guy's heading for the checkmate. It really is that gorgeous to watch. Boring for a stadium full of USC people watching it, but for people who understand the art and watch those quarter inches and half inches go by, it's amazing chess. I've seen a lot of my friends, and peers, or they get successful in a thing, and they think that because they're successful because of this element or this thing that happened, that's why I'm successful. I did that. When a lot of it could just be circumstance. It's just accidental.
Man,
a million
Overboard
variables came
was the
together
song
and
that was
put
just
you in this
playing
position where you're
by
successful.
Lucifer.
And then they drive their stake in the ground. They go, I know what I'm doing. Well, as soon as you say that you know what you're doing and you're convinced that you know what you're doing, you're dead. You have to grow. Life is absolute change and chaos, and you have to be adaptable. And I think something that's really important to point out to people is, if you're an artist and you're going to be writing songs, making wine, photography, filmmaking, painting, whatever that is, do what feels right to you. Follow a combination of your head and your heart. Like your intuition is important. Your experience is almost as important, if not more. That balance of actual hard work, understanding, using your experiences to move forward with that art, but understand that you are on your fucking own. You are alone. Do what makes you feel like you're successful, or at least setting up the next level of, okay, I've reached that understanding, now let's go to the next level. Big fan of Chris Cornell. When was the last time did you think about Chris Cornell this week?
Yeah.
I didn't. I love the guy. Alan Rickman, David Bowie, it's, there's a bunch of posts on Facebook, and then you go about your way. So that's what's going to happen to you, by the way. People are going to be upset that you're gone, and then they're going to move the fuck on with their lives. So be happy with what your decisions are. You're on your own.
It's a very existential way to live, but
if you're doing your job and you're doing it accurately enough, and you're expressing from the heart, from the core, from your experiences and your intuition, other people are going to resonate with that. It's going to resonate with them. They're going to get something out of it. Their day might go better because of what your true, honest approach to what you're doing. You're going to help other people. You're going to help yourself. You're going to help your family. But just understand, at the end of the day, nobody owes you as an artist any kind of accolade. You don't owe them anything. They don't owe you anything. You're just doing.
So yeah, I am Jonathan, and I hope that you got something out of today's video. I mean, I really, in all honesty, get something out of watching that every time. So if nothing else, hopefully it motivates you to do something that you have been wanting to do for a while and you just haven't. Anyway, I know that this has been a very long video, so I'm just going to keep my outro very short and sweet. My name is Jonathan, and what I typically do is put bands up against Tool. So if there's a song or a band that you want to comment, that is great, and I love you for commenting. I will get to them eventually. However, if you do comment a song or a band and you want to see it put up within a week of me reacting to it, the best surefire way of getting that to happen is to buy me a coffee. So I will put a link in the description to do just that too. Anyway, I guess that's it.